Earlier this week, we reviewed part one of the documentary A Whisper to a Roar, featuring Zimbabwe and Ukraine. Today, part two features student democracy movements in Egypt and Venezuela. Here's VOA's Carolyn Turner.
A Whisper to a Roar follows students in Venezuela as they protest against the forced closing of TV and radio stations and the nationalization of private property.
Y aquellas grandes instalaciones en la faja petrolífera más grande del mundo. Les expropio todas las plantas y les pago con papeles además. No les voy a pagar, no crean que les voy a pagar.
Para nosotros es lamentable.
To us, it's sad as students and young people to see how Venezuela, the president just takes over any property with no legal proceeding or justification. It's not just large corporations, it's also small private properties. The student movement began with massive street demonstrations against closing RCTV. It had huge support among Venezuelans, pro-Chavez or not. Everybody agreed that it's necessary to be able to broadcast and communicate freely.
After Chavez closed 34 radio and TV stations, more protests erupted and the government responded with violence.
Yesterday, they assassinated a student just for protesting. He was shot in the head. In the past 4 weeks, 4 students have been murdered. The government's rhetoric is one of violence. The rhetoric comes from the president and doesn't allow reconciliation.
The film takes the viewer along as students organize and take control of monitoring elections in Venezuela and Egypt.
The National Electoral Committee has not kept its word when it comes to delivering timely election results, so we want to have a parallel system for counting votes and monitoring election results. We're using a monitoring map on our website so people can upload specific complaints by text and Twitter, and we will generate a report.
After government forces raided the campus, the students went public with the Youth Vote campaign.
We invite everybody to vote massively today, September 26. Our message to the country is very clear. If you want to join us in our fight for democracy, get out of your home and participate.
In Egypt, Abdel Fattah organized election observers.
On election day, we'll have 2 working groups. One will be on the streets observing violations. The second will be in operation rooms at the Egyptian Democratic Academy.
During this election, we've set up a headquarters to monitor election violations so we can expose all the violations that take place, because we know that in the end, the ruling party won't stand for fair elections, because fair elections mean their demise.
When you see manipulation of electoral commissions, when you see constraints against people registering to vote, when you see polling stations being closed or not working, you know this is not a democracy.
The takeaway is we've got to be involved. I've got to be involved. I can't sit and watch, because as soon as I and you and people are not involved, somebody will slide our government away from us, and the next recourse we have is maybe taking to the streets, and that's not a good recourse.
This does not depend on a hero, a single person, or savior. This is about the responsibility everyone must assume for their country. If you sit around waiting for change, it won't happen. If you want something, make it happen.
A Whisper to a Roar could have easily been titled Democracy 101. The film is an excellent roadmap for developing countries to take their governments to the next level and hold them accountable. Carolyn Turner, VOA News.